are now tuned in to Discover Your Potential with TV radio talk show hosts Dan Gilman and Anna DeVere. So listen, participate, and be inspired. Know that you can discover your potential. Here they are, Dan and Anna.
He is the creator of the Kick-Ass Guide to Life, and he's had a pretty kick-ass start to life as well. His story is quite inspirational. He was almost given up for adoption. He grew up in the inner city. He was homeless, and he was a school dropout all before the grade of 8th grade. All of this all happened to him before 8th grade. And he is standing here today as a true testament of perseverance. Let me introduce you to your next speaker.
Welcome to Discover Your Potential. I'm so excited and so grateful to have you here with me today. This is our third show together.
Yeah, and I'm super excited about our guest, Dan. This could not be more like up my alley, so I'm really pleased that you set this one up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited. I'm going to just bring him on because he's so amazing. Christopher,
what's up, guys?
So glad you're here with us today.
It's awesome to be here. It's an honor. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So thank you both for having me.
Well, thank you. I wanted to start off can you start and share a bit of your about your journey and how it led to you to become the no excuses coach?
Yeah, I'll try to distill that into a very short snippet. Actually, I'm writing the book about my life right now. It's called It's Just You and Me, Kid. It's Just You and Me, Kid. It's a story of a mother and son's survival on the streets of Southern California. I had a pretty incredible life. At the age of 13, I came home from school, being in the 7th grade, and found out that my mom had spent all the money trying to save her dying cat. And unfortunately, we were being evicted from our house. And so at 13 years old, I became a 7th grade homeless dropout who got to live in the backseat of a station wagon with 18 cats and 4 dogs. That's not a joke. That's actually true. 18 cats and 4 dogs inside of a 1969 Country Squire station wagon, the wood paneling on it. And for the 4 ensuing years, I got to live life on the streets and in motels and got to experience all sorts of things with drugs and alcohol. And after 2 failed suicide attempts, I had a gun put to my head and I thought I was going to get my brains blown out. And ultimately, I had to sit there and think about my situation that I was in. And I had to really sit there and get clear with myself. And I had to sit there and think, okay, I'm either going to get out of this situation in a police car because I was doing bad things with bad people, or it's going to be a pine box because I was doing bad things with bad people, or I'm going to have to get out of this situation on my own and actually leave my mother in this situation. My mother had various psychological disorders and chemical dependencies, and I felt responsible for her. But at the age of 17, I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm going to wind up dead or in jail. And so ultimately I started making different decisions. And long story short, went back, got my GED at the age of 18 and spent the 12 ensuing years in school and earned my master's degree the same year I bought my first house. So that's kind of how I became the no excuses coach. I just stopped giving myself excuses and started giving myself opportunities, and never stopped and haven't stopped and don't stop.
Oh, that's incredible.
It is incredible. It's incredible. I it's funny. I wonder if you're like me, because if I don't know that I could sum it up so succinctly, but the kinds of experiences that I had, I'm sure that Child Protective Services might have been called into the situation. And I wonder if you feel that you've had a blessed life. Let's just say, do you look at the upside more than the downside? Let's just jump right into mindset, because I kind of want to hear more about this book and more about your approach. Why are you like that?
Thank you. Yeah, it's, when you sit there and it's all about perspective for me. It's like, if I can just shift my perspective a little bit, if I can get my coaching clients, when I get my coaching clients to shift their perspective about their past, present, and future, if you could sit there and see that life is happening for us instead of to us, that's a perspective shift. If you could sit there and say that everything has happened in my life and everything that's happening in my life right now is preparing me for what's next, that's a perspective shift. And you start opening your perspective a little bit differently, start changing your beliefs and your thought patterns. You start getting around the right people. You stop tolerating a lot of BS from yourself. And it's pretty incredible what you can do with your life. And so many people are unfortunately sitting in a victim mindset, and they're hoping, wishing, and praying that someday they're going to be happy. And the ultimate thing about life is this is all we have, this moment right here. We don't get anything else. We don't get to go back in the past. We don't get to go into the future. We get this moment right here. So when I'm in a moment with somebody, I'm in that moment together. Like, it's so important because so many people don't live their lives. They just exist in it.
Totally. And I've had a knife pulled on me. I mean, I can't even fathom what you've gone through, brother. I grew up in Oakland, California. My cousin produced the movie Straight Outta Compton. We talk a lot about To make it right. So we grew up in a certain way, and yet we remember those moments when it came down to a flash. You're gonna be dead or you're gonna be alive. What do you do? We wouldn't wish that on our children, and yet we grew up in a way that's resilient, that is nothing to do with the way they make choices today. And yet, bringing it back to the present moment where you can look a person in the eye and go, I see you. Let me help you make a choice. As a coach, I'm sure what you're doing is so relevant and so on point. And it's just kind of an honor to meet you in this moment. So there's not really a question embedded in that, but
No, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's life is amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I know you mentioned, and that kind of segue into a question that I have. Excuse me. But your mantra is no excuses. But how do you assist clients? And I want to talk about your book too, but how do you assist clients in identifying and eliminating their own excuses?
Great question. Great question. Yeah. So many people have their excuses, their favorite crutches. It depends on the client. Some people have their excuses in place because of worthiness issues. They don't feel like they're worthy. So they have these excuses into place to prevent them from actually being happy and fulfilling their dreams. So for me, it's just about uncovering what that fear is. And usually if I can determine it, that's something that's happened between the age of 0 and 5. If you study child psychology and whatnot, a lot of who we become happens in those first 5 years. And so I will specifically ask somebody, like, talk to me about something that happened that changed your perspective about your life. You know, what was something in your childhood? Oh, it was this situation when I took band practice, or this situation with my mom, or this situation with the church, or whatever it might be. And what did you make yourself to believe about that? How do you think about yourself in that? And it's just about really unpacking whatever it is, that particular situation that somebody has been through, and asking them, you know, how does that excuse serve you? Like, oh, I don't have time. Okay, what can we do to mitigate the fact that you say you don't have time? Let's talk about that. And so what I do is I have my clients do this tolerations list where they write out the tolerations from themselves, the tolerations from other people, and tolerations from inanimate objects. And so you list all these things out and you find out that you're tolerating a lot of stuff that you don't need to be tolerating. And that thereby can open up the time. So it's about developing that courage for those individuals, my clients, to have those tough conversations with their family members or with their employer, or whatever it might be, that they need to stop tolerating some of the BS that they're getting. You know, I was helping coaching a client not too long ago, and she kept taking on all this extra work from her boss. At 11 o'clock at night, she'd get an email saying, oh, hey, by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, I need the figures on this. And she just kept doing it and kept doing it. She goes, Chris, I don't have time to do anything else. I don't have time to do my assignments because I'm doing all these things. And I'm like, what would life look like? What would it feel like if you no longer tolerated that from your boss? If you actually had boundaries and had conversation with that person, how do you think you might feel about yourself? And what would change about having that time open and available to do something that you're really passionate about? Oh my God, Chris, okay, let's talk about those specific steps. Let's work backwards from what that really looks like, and then develop those steps. And then you just start taking action on those, start taking imperfect action on them. And it's pretty incredible what it is that you can learn and you can do and you can grow in a very short amount of time.
That's brilliant.
You know, I find that it's usually a mind shift that you can do very quickly. And then obviously having somebody identify that trigger is really key in their ability to jump over that hurdle. And you've already stated this, but I think what's really brilliant is that your life can't be in a vacuum. Once you take out a junk story, you have to replace it with that positive mindset, that positive image. I just can't wait to get at your book. Is there anything you want to tell us more about what that book is going to look like? Because
here's a mock cover of it. It's called "It's Just You and Me, Kid." It's a story. Right now, the subtitle is "The Story of a Mother," true story of a mother and son survival on the streets of California. But yeah, it's just you and me, kid. But it's actually Dave Grohl's book. If you're a Foo Fighter fan, it's I just wrapped the cover around this. But literally, if you go to itsjustyoumandmekid.com, you can find out information about it. It's going to be released this fall. It's all basically the journey that I just shared with you in a very detailed manner. It talks about my childhood growing up in physical abuse and mental abuse and not knowing my biological father, having my biological sister leave, all these ups and downs in this travel that I went through in my life, and then ultimately got out of being homeless. And my mom actually got out of being homeless. And then the cycle kind of repeated itself again. And then there was a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's basically the quintessential hero's journey. And what I do is I pepper the story and the journey of my life with things that the reader can actually apply in their life as well. So they could be thinking about, okay, do I have animosity and anger towards my parents about something? What would it look like if I didn't blame my parents anymore? So what I offer people is to sit there and think, if you went through the experiences that your parents went through in the time period that they went through them in, might you be like them? Well, yeah, you would probably be like them. So, okay, how about having some empathy and forgiveness for those people in your life, and realize that, you know, my mother was not a very good mother, but because of the situations that I chose to thrive in and not beat myself up about, I'm a happy person today. You know, I live my passion every single day. I make the world a better place. I left corporate. I was in corporate for over 30 years. I left corporate in November 2019 to do my coaching and speaking and my books and everything else, because I'd been doing it as a side hustle forever, because I was safe. You know, I was comfortably miserable. And what I do now is help a lot of people who are in that same space. They're 40, 50, 60, and they're realizing like, wow, I bought onto the dream, and the dream isn't really the dream. I just want to do this. And so I'm helping people transition out of their careers and start businesses and go after their dreams and their passions, because, you know, life is short. It's so unbelievably short. And yet we live like we're going to live forever. I teach people how to live every single day and own that day and be able to go to sleep at night and feeling good about who they were and what they got to do that day.
I should definitely call you, because but especially like how do you, that kind of segues into another question I had, but how do you approach individuals who are resistant to change due to fear or self-doubt? Because I mean, just even internally before, you know, I've actually had my own kind of manifestation more recently too. Just how do you get out of that self-doubt?
Yeah, it's again, you have to have the desire to do it. One of the questions I ask people is to find out just like a benchmark of how they're doing, is I ask them if they love themselves, yes or no. And I find that I did this over COVID. I gave a bunch of coaching sessions away for free, just my way of helping people get through tough times. And I started hearing this little whisper, and I started asking people, I'm like, do you love yourself, yes or no? And I thought, okay, it's a stupid question. Why? You know, of course people love themselves, but 75% of about 200 people struggled with loving themselves. I'm like, okay, but do you have an expectation that you want to be happy? Do you have an expectation that you're going to be successful in your relationships? Yet you're beating yourself up and you're doing these things. I mean, it's pretty idiotic. So what I invite people to do is sit there and figure out, okay, how would life feel if you no longer carried all that stress and that burden around with you? All the years of guilt and shame and frustration and anger and all that stuff that we carry around with us. What would it feel like if you just went, I don't have to deal with it anymore? Like, oh my God, Chris, it would be so amazing. I'd be do this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, then let it go. You're carrying it around for some particular reason. Make amends with it. Understand that it all happened for your greater good to be the person that you are today. And that you could decide whether to be a victim of the situation or you could be a victor of the situation. You can wish to stay in the survivor mode that you're in, or you can get in thriver mode and sit there and realize that we can only look through the lens of life through one of two ways, the lens of love or the lens of fear. So when you think about the decisions that you're making, are you making that decision out of fear or out of love? And that's something that I've had to go on my journey all throughout these years. I have coaches and mentors, and I'm constantly investing in myself in one way or another, learning and growing every single day. You know, it's pretty incredible what you can change and what you can shift when you start being very intentional about it, and the way you start your day, and also the people that you hang around yourself with. So in order to answer that question, it's all really like a whole package deal. Like I literally coach people most of the time for a year. They do 6 month. I do 6 month agreements. So usually the first 6 months is unpacking and kind of figuring out and putting everything away that needs to go away. And then the next 6 months is usually about building the goals and the dreams and everything, like building off that platform, building off that foundation, if you will. So, and I actually don't take on all the clients that come to see me for coaching, because I realize that they're saying they want to help, and they say they want the help, they say they want to change, but I can tell that their ego is still tied up in a lot of that stuff. And I only want to coach people who are really truly ready to own their authentic self, because once they do that, then what they do is they become spokespeople to go out there and make this world a better place, and go tell people like, hey, listen, I don't have this anger and animosity anymore against people who have wronged me, because I realize that I'm the one that's drinking the poison, expecting them to get sick. Yeah. Right. So we got to take responsibility for our lives. And sadly, some people just don't.
I'm in love with this conversation. And I want to talk a little bit about the self-love journey, because you're speaking to me with those guitars in the background, man. I'm a musician, and I have this way of looking at life that I'm a rock star. So never really had a problem leaving the corporate world, but nobody really understands, except maybe my kid, that I love to step into rock star mode. To me, that means I'm the most important person, and I've got to live life according to my rules. I wonder if you could speak to that moment when you decided that you'd had enough of corporate, because there's a real true decision. And was there anything that you just got up one day and said, screw it, this is it? I'm going to make it my main thrust and not my side hustle?
Yeah, it comes down to one word, and that's a great question. Thank you for that. Congruency, right? When you think about being congruent with your words and your values, a lot of what screws us up in life is that we think we have a value of something, but then we don't hold ourselves accountable to that. So if we say we value honesty and trust and respect, but yet we're not giving those things to ourselves, then we're being hypocrites. We're being incongruent. So for me, I found out that I was telling everybody to go after their dreams. And while I was successful on paper, I was comfortably miserable. And so for me, it was a congruency thing to sit there and think, okay, Chris, you keep talking about one day you're leaving your job. You've been at this company for 26 years. For me, the writing on the wall also was having my son, right? You know, my son is 6 years old. And so thinking about, you know, being a parent to him and thinking about proactively some of the questions he might ask me later on in life, like, Dad, why did you stay working at that job when you wanted to follow your dreams? Why didn't you ever just, you know, follow your dreams? You tell everybody to go follow their dreams and to cut the ties. And so I started thinking about that. I'm like, I don't want to be a hypocrite or incongruent with my own son to say that I never went after my dreams. And ultimately, when you lay your head on your pillow at night, there's a couple of things you should be able to think about. Like, did I use my gifts, my true authentic gifts? Did I use those to the best of my abilities today? Or did I hide them? Or am I still there? Am I afraid to use them? Right? When you use your gifts every single day and you lay your head on the pillow and you feel like, man, I made a difference in the world today. I made a difference in myself. I did something where I got out of my comfort zone. You sleep better. You feel better. Your relationships are better. You wake up better. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do, if you look at this thing and go, oh, wow, look at all the bad news in the world. Look how messed up the world is. Then that's what you're going to get. But if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you focus on is what you're grateful for, wow, what a way to start the day. Man, I'm grateful I woke up this morning. I'm grateful for my wife's in the bed. I'm grateful for my son is there. I'm grateful for the cat on the, yeah. Oh, and then the next thing, how about we set the intention for the day, right? No, how many times do we ever set the intention for the day? Like, my intention today is to use my words, my actions to make the world a better place. My intention today is to be present and playful with my son. My intention today is to listen more than I speak, whatever it might be for you. And then as you're going throughout the day, think about it. Like, am I being in alignment with that intention this morning? Did I set the intention to be disappointed Dunsky today? No, I didn't. Okay, what can I do to change that right now? I can put on some music. I can watch a funny video. I can call somebody. I can do something to break the mode that I'm in right now in order to go back to where it is that we're truly supposed to be vibrating from. And that's that zone of authenticity, like, you know, just not having to worry who you're being, just be you, right? And then I noticed that I wasn't doing that. So that was one of the reasons why I left as well. No regrets. I'm so glad. It's perfect
So
timing.
fantastic. What a great mantra, you know, and I think Dan's feeling it as well. I mean, here's Dan carrying on his mom's legacy. He's the host of Discover Your Potential. And I think some of the conversations we had when we first met were acknowledging him. Oh, now you're a co-host. Well, good job. Good move. But yeah, I mean, you
Moving on
wrote
up.
a show called Discover Your Potential. It rocks your world and says, what am I doing to be authentic, to be in alignment? Like you said, Chris, it's you're speaking our language, brother. And I'm more motivated now to live an authentic life than I was, you know, before we started this chat, because it just reads all over you. It's just fantastic that you're, and I heard you say you're a cat guy. That kind of blows my mind. Like, living with 18 cats didn't knock you out of being a cat guy.
Yeah, it was actually, well, the 18 cats made it. We had 30 cats in the house. There was 30 cats in the house. Wow. Yeah, my mother was the crazy cat lady. We had 4 dogs, 30 cats. Because the sheriff showed up at the house, we couldn't get all the cats inside the car. So literally, we were putting cats in the car before we got. It was horrible. It was horrible. So we got 18 cats in the car. But no, I love cats. It was never the cat's fault. You know, so right. I love all animals, and I think people that don't have animals, I think they're missing out on some amazing love. Like, I have one of my friends just lost his dog not too long ago. He goes, I'm not getting another dog. I'm like, why? And he goes, oh, I don't want to feel this pain again. I'm like, but what about all the love you felt? You're going to feel the pain for a little bit, but you're going to remember the love for the rest of your life, right? It's all about that perspective.
I think a lot of people adopted pets during COVID. I mean, I think it definitely kept my heart alive to have that connection. And we got another cat, which was, you know, probably a cat too many, but hearing your story, I'm like, nope, you can't. The nature of love is loss, and you can't have one without the other. And your story is just a brilliant bookend. Even the fact that you talked about your mom, you know, eventually repeating the pattern. I saw that a lot with my dad. I was always rooting for him, but I was aware that that's his journey. And as a parent, I let him off the hook, but I think you've cued in on something key. The key to loving my dad more through his addiction was loving myself even more after I discovered that was key. I don't know if that resonates with you. You've obviously
100%.
taken care of that inner child. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's just something you have to do. It's that awareness factor. I mean, I talk about awareness, acceptance, and action, right? First, you have to be aware of the situation. Then you have to be in the mindset to accept it. Okay, it is what it is, right? So many people have situations in their life and they're ignoring it. It's like, it is what it is. The sooner I deal with it, the sooner I align myself with my core values and I start taking action on this, something's going to happen. It's going to go away. Like everything else in my life, we've survived 100% of all the different things that we've experienced in our life to get to this point right now. Why would there be any reason that we're not going to survive the next thing too? So we've had that awareness, and then we sit there and we take that acceptance or responsibility to say, listen, what role do I have in this? Okay. I've been fired from every job. Maybe it's something within inside myself. Maybe I've lost every relationship. Maybe it's not them. Maybe it's me. How can I start taking action within myself to change that trajectory? I mean, there's so many books and there's so many, I mean, the answers are here. The answers are here. People are like, oh, I don't know what to do with my finances. I don't know what to do about my relationship. I'm like, all you got to do is Google it and then follow the instructions and fail your way to success. That's all you got to do is just do it. But so many people are just like, no, I like being a victim. I'm going to get around other victims too. And we're all going to complain about what the government does. And no, and not have to focus on our own lives. Well, be miserable for the rest of your life then, but that's a waste.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. So I have to ask you, was parenting a scary prospect for you? Having had, I mean, I had a less than ideal childhood. I think we all have on this call. It's okay to admit that it's scary to be a parent. And I don't know what that was like for you when you made that conscious decision.
Yeah. Well, my mom told me all my life, she goes, don't have kids. And I said, why? And she goes, because the cycle of abuse runs in our family. And I looked at her, I said, no, you chose to beat the shit out of me. You chose to do those things. I said, I'm going to choose. And I really didn't want kids for most of my life. And then met my girlfriend and that became a deal breaker. She's like, I said, okay, I'm 10 years older than her. So I said, when I'm 40 and you're 30, then we'll have a kid. And I thought, okay, that gives me like 8 years to figure it out. And then 8 years went by and all of a sudden it was like, tried to have a kid, couldn't do it, went through the IVF route, did that failed and wound up going the adoption route. So I became a dad much, much later in life. And that was very intentional to know that I wasn't going to have resentment towards my kid for, not being able to go follow through on my career and whatnot. Plus, I wanted to have my wherewithal within myself to know who I truly am, because I saw a lot of my friends having kids, but they didn't know who they were. And they were trying to be parents. And I was like, okay, what a messed up situation when you're trying to parent these kids and you don't even know who you are. You're creating them and they don't even know who they are because you're so in your ego and everything else. For me, it was like, going back to that awareness thing, that formula, that awareness, that acceptance, and that action is like, okay, I'm aware that I have tendencies to be frustrated with people who are stupid, right? And just be frank, right? So, okay, I can imagine my kid's going to be doing these things. So what do I have to do as an adult, as a parent, to sit there and proactively, not reactively, proactively sit there and identify myself that could be a potential trigger? Again, taking that responsibility. So I started visioning in my mind, okay, let me experience Jackson talking back to me. And let me envision my mind going, wow, I don't need to take that personal. I don't need to react to the situation. He's a 4-year-old kid at this point, blah, blah, blah. And so I started proactively putting myself into those places as I do with my coaching clients. It's like, we don't know the difference between real reality and perceived reality. And I'll give you an example. We've all had bad dreams, right? I woke up and what happens? We wake up from our bad dream and I think it happened. Our body is, our heart's racing, we're sweating. Like, oh my God, I just fell from a building, or oh my God, I just did this. You don't know the difference between real reality and perceived reality. So if your body can actually, you could trick your body to think that this stuff actually happened, you could do the same thing proactively. So if you have a difficult conversation you're going to be having with a coworker, visualize that in your brain, see it going both ways, see that person be, because sometimes we build things up like, oh, the person's going to do this. And then they never do that. And we wonder why we didn't deal with something, 10 years earlier. So you got to sit there and plan in your brain. Okay, I can see this conversation going great. Wow, this is awesome. Or I could see that person becoming, defensive. Or if I have an understanding of what that person's personality type is, okay, I can see them doing this. Okay, I could feel it welling up in my body. I'm getting frustrated, but now I just decide to let it go. And I decide to ask her more questions and get her to really tell me what the root of all the situation is, not just all the hyperbole and everything else. Let's get to the root of what this person is really dealing with. And let's try to solve for that so that we don't have to deal with this game again. And so when we role play those things in our brain, it's pretty powerful what it is that we can do. Vision boards. I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's another story. I had a vision board at my other house, which I now rent out. And it was a picture of a pool. And I wanted this like tropical pool, and it was all just really super gorgeous. And so we had it on there for years and years and years and years and years. We move into this house, and I'm putting everything up, and I put the vision board up, and it's almost, I heard a motivational speaker tell the same story. And I literally was looking at the picture. I'm like, take the picture off the board, and I go walk out in the backyard, and I'm like, damn similar, crazy, damn similar.
Yeah, I love how thoughts become things. I mean, that's a real phenomenon. I'm also so grateful that you talked about your adoption story. Yeah, adopting your child. I did the same thing. I was 41. That was our choice. And it's so interesting to have a child come in that has their own history, right? Talk about, I wanted to break generational curses, but this is the way in with my daughter. And it was remarkably similar, actually. Her birth parents had similar experience to mine, so it wasn't really essentially different. But it's very interesting to bring a child in and then do all this conscious parenting. I mean, my goodness, your child has the advantage of all of that work that you've done. It's, I do think being an older parent is a gift.
Yes.
You know, I do think that, and I do think that she's inherently not a mini me, right? She is not a mini me. It's a great advantage to come in and know she's got her own history. I don't know if you want to talk about being an adoptive parent, but I'm guessing right away that there's a very lucky child in the mix over there.
Yeah, he's amazing. Actually, I keep a picture of my family right in front of me at all times. I keep it right in front of me. I know my why. But yeah, you know, it was something that I wasn't keen on originally. I've been mentoring at-risk kids for many, many years since I was in my 20s, just kids that were kind of like me. They're just messed up. They're in and out of juvenile hall and whatnot. And so I kind of saw what the foster care system did. I've got a lot of friends that were in foster care. So for me going the adoption route and also thinking about, you know, DNA, like you don't know where this person has been. You don't know their past life experiences. Was the mother on drugs? You know, there's some information that we had. So it was a big crapshoot. And because I'm very, I want to research things and I want to understand what I'm doing. I'm very, very intentional about that. And so I started researching like adoptions, failed adoptions, you know, and I found this dads group for that were dads of adopted kids. And some of the dads were like, man, I sound like a jerk, but I don't really like my kid. You know, I love him, but I really don't like him. And I was scaring me to death, guys. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, you know what, whatever it is, it's going to be. And whatever it's going to be, I'm going to be able to adjust myself to the situation. If there's special needs, if they're a different race, whatever it is, we had all open, you know, things. So, I mean, we could have literally got a black kid and be like, okay, now we're going to figure this out. And that's the thing about life is that you just make the decision and you figure it out. And for me, you know, I did a bunch of reading and research on that. I talked to a lot of people, and it's a beautiful experience. It's an open adoption. We actually, you know, we're friends with the biological parents, at least the mother on Facebook. So she sees all the pictures that we post. And yeah, it's been an incredible experience. It's been eye-opening for me. Like I said, we were talking about the moments. My son has taught me that because, you know, if you're with your kid and you're thinking about work, like your kid's not getting the best part of you. And so many times if we sit there and say, okay, who do you love the most? Well, we love our kids. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolute, how much do you love your kid? 10. Okay. When you're with your kid, are you being a 10 attention wise, or are you being a 5? Oh, you're thinking about all that other stuff. You're thinking about all other stuff. So when they're asking you questions, you go, huh, what? Or they're talking to you and you're like, and you're thinking about your other stuff. You're not loving them a 10. And quite honestly, you're not loving yourself either, because you're sitting there, you're not giving yourself that opportunity to really embrace that moment. And that's something that we all need to do, is start to embrace those moments and find the beauty in the journey. And don't try to predict the journey. Try to understand that when you go through your journey, everything that's happened along the way is happening again for your greater good.
It's interesting you brought up your why during the conversation. I'd love to learn more about your why, or why it's important to know your why. I think that's super critical for people that don't realize.
Oh, it's huge. It's the cornerstone of my coaching. It's the cornerstone of everything I do. When people sit there and say they don't know what to do or how to start something, I'm like, re-engineer it. You think about with the end in mind, and then you work backwards, right? Okay, so I expect this business is going to do this. Okay, what's the last thing I did before I started selling something to a customer? Oh, I did some marketing. Okay, what you just start building that back up. And the same thing with your life. Most people don't have an idea of who they're becoming or who they want to become. And for me, it really hit me back in 2008. I was at a funeral and I was sitting in the back of the church, and I saw all my coworkers going up there and eulogizing this person that I worked with. And I knew her, but I didn't really know her. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, what an impactful life this person had. And, you know, all the great things that she did outside of work, and just a beautiful spirit. And I sat there and I thought to myself, I'm like, self, if you died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? So think about that, guys. If you died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And for me, I thought, man, if I died tomorrow, 10 or 15 people would show up. They would bring Jack Daniels and Miller Genuine Draft and Bon Jovi and Motley Crue records. And they would talk about all the stupid stuff Chris did. Oh my God, remember that time he did that? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, remember the time he did that? And remember that girl he dated? And remember that girl he dated? And blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah. And the postscript would be, oh yeah, he was a homeless 7th grade dropout who ultimately got his master's degree and changed the world and published 10 books. You know, a little postscript on that, like, oh, yeah, he was a party animal, but then he did this little thing. And I thought, I don't want that. And so now I was driving home. It was really bugging me. And I thought, okay, what can I do with this situation that I'm in? I'm like, I want to change this. So I actually went home and I wrote my eulogy, God's honest truth. I wrote my eulogy and I put it off to the side and I almost wasn't going to do anything with it. And I got a glass of water and I came back and I started reading it. And I thought, well, if I was at a church, I would actually read it out loud. So I started reading my eulogy out loud. And the ultimate part of it said, Christopher Rausch will have fought for what's right and what's fair. He will have risked for which that mattered, and he will left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. And guys, when I read that out loud, there was some other stuff on there. I started crying. I mean, I just not boo-hooing, but just tears. Like, wow, what an amazing life. He was a powerful dad. He was this, da 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 da. And also through that process, guys, it gave me the clear definition of who I wanted to become and who I will become and who I am becoming. But also I realized there was some things that weren't in there that I thought were important. I realized those aren't important. Those aren't a part of my legacy. That's a part of my ego. My legacy is that I know I'm going to fight for what's right and what's fair, and I'm going to help make this world a better place, God willing, right? So when you have that clear determination, you have that why, you wake up in the morning and you say, as part of those intentions, like my intention today is to live out my legacy, like to fight for what's right and what's fair and risk for which that mattered. And as I'm going through my day, I did it the other day. I thought about on Tuesday, I was kind of in a funky mood. We get in funky moods. I was in a funky mood and I thought, have I done anything to fulfill my legacy today? And I'm like, no. Well, I was doing my show on Tuesday night and I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do my show. Most of the time I interview guests. I'd love to have you guys on there. But every once in a while I do a solo show, but I usually, I'm always hyped up and like, okay, guys. And I do about a 45-minute show. And I thought, I'm in a funky mood today. And normally I would listen to music. I know how to get myself out of a funky mood, but I'm like, I'm going to let people see me in a funky mood. And so I just did my show. And when I went to bed that night, I was like, I may have not done, something early in the day to fulfill my legacy. But when I was intentional about it, I decided that doing that show in a different way will reach different people, reach people in a different way. And sure enough, people are like, wow, Chris, thank you for being like this. We always see you so, energized and, you look like life is perfect. I'm like, no, I have challenges and struggles and anxiety and sleep issues and relationship problems and, constipated. We all have situations, right? We're all more the same than we are different. And so that was my ability to do that. So when you have a clear why and you're powerful in that stance, you have to sit there and gauge, is this a part of my legacy? Is this thing that I'm doing, is this a part of my legacy? Yes or no? Did I say that I wanted to end my life early and get diabetes? No. Okay, well, maybe I'm going to cut out all the sugar in my life and actually take care of myself so that I live long enough so I can actually fulfill these dreams. So it's just all about that alignment, right? When you start getting aligned and congruent and you know your why and you have the right people around you, you're unstoppable.
That's great.
Oh, that's terrific.
You guys are asking awesome questions too, by the way. Thank you. This is fun.
Oh, and just like it's just fun to ping off of what you've said. I mean, I'm going to go back to Dave Grohl because Nirvana was a band that really affected me. And I'm wondering, do you know Dave Grohl? Are you friends with him? Because I've heard him interviewed on NPR, and I'm going to tell you right now, when you're talking about your journey from I got this and I don't want to be remembered for this. I've heard Dave Grohl say similar things. Are you guys buddies by any chance?
See, now that's a perfect segue to talk about that manifestation thing in your brain. So I've been visualizing. I don't know what it is. I listen to my whispers now. I used to not listen to them. There's something about Dave Grohl. I wasn't really a Foo Fighters fan for a lot of years. I thought they were kind of corny. And I mean, I like rock music. I love rock music, but I was like, they're not for me. And then one of their albums came out, and long story short, when Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for Foo Fighters, passed away last year, he died of a drug overdose.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I wanted to reach out and hug Dave Grohl. I was like, oh my God, this guy lost, the singer of his band in Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, and now he's lost his drummer who was his best friend and all this other stuff. And I don't know what it is. I basically got obsessed with him, and I just feel like there's some sort of connection. So I've just started manifesting that I want to go on tour with Foo Fighters and become Dave Grohl's life coach. And then we're going to do a TV show called Dave Grohl as a Life Coach.
So, I'm telling you, I picked that out of thin air, but I can feel it because there's synergy. I mean, I just know that if you knew each other, you would be buddies. And I'm going to put that on my vision board for you because I'm wildly influenced by Nirvana, and people go, really? I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm the same age as Dave Grohl. So
Me
go
too.
figure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to be our age and to have survived a number of things and not to have survivor's remorse. Because I watched people that were with me that fell.
Oh yeah.
You talk about a reason and a why to get up and fight. Like I still have that street sense in me that I'm like, I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing and I'm not going to be inauthentic for a moment. And that's a great lesson to teach our kids. So, okay,
Yeah.
I'm putting it out to the universe. We're going to make Dave Grohl show up in your world.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. I mean, it's something to play around with, right? You know, so many times this, one of the things that I help my clients do is reconnect with their inner kid, because you think about it, when some point we were told to stop being kids, like stop getting your head out of the clouds, you know, stop fantasizing. You have to be realistic. You have to get a job. Someday we stop being a kid. And I learned this through a therapist that I was seeing for a while after my mom passed away. And she asked me, she goes, when did you stop being a kid? And I said, phew. I said, I'll be generous and say 8 or 9. You know, and so we lose that childhood connection. We lose that sense of adventure, that sense of wonderment. And as adults, you know, just imagine how much different your life would be if you had that creativity, if you had that spontaneity, that sense of adventure. You weren't afraid of things like, you know, I think the day we start to die is the day that we stop like truly living. Right.
Mhm.
And, you know, stop being curious and stuff like that. Have that sense of adventure. It's fun. You know, you just got to reconnect with yourself. And so many people out there are not connected to themselves. They're disconnected. They're an ego. They think that more stuff is going to make them happier, or putting people down is going to make them more happier. The world's in a sad state. And I know this for a fact. I have people all over the world that I know, and I know that we're more the same than we are different. And I know that this is an amazing time for us all to be alive and together and working together to create a humanity that our kids deserve to inherit.
Yay.
100%.
100%.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions, Anna? Because I have a few.
I do too. I don't want to step on your toes.
Ask me anything.
No, I want to kind of know how you get into your groove. Like, what is your trick? I'll just tell you, I put music on and dance like nobody's watching. Like I'm back at Lollapalooza or whatever it was I saw as a kid. But is there anything that is like bulletproof for you as a way to get out of a funk?
Yeah, music, 100%. I have a playlist. I always tell people to have playlists. So I have a playlist. It's called Wake Up Music, and in it is Hanson Mbop. It's got Dancing Queen by ABBA. So it's all these fun.
I love ABBA.
All these fun. There's probably about 6 or 7 songs in there. So when I used to drive to work, I'd find myself in a funky mood. I'm like, okay, I'd put on a couple of songs and I would sing at the top of my lungs, because you change your endorphins when you sing and when you dance, as you know. And so, yeah, I've got those songs, and I'll play like I said before, when I do my show and I'm like feeling tired, I'll listen to a couple of songs on another playlist. So yeah, for me, music is everything. You know, I sit there and I think about, you know, the fact that of when I was a kid, the biggest benefit, I guess, of my experience being young and abused and everything was the fact of music played a role in being my friend and being my confidant and being right there with me all those times, the lyrics and the melodies and all that other stuff. I mean, I can talk about music all day long. It's a crazy what it does to your soul. And so I always encourage people, like, when you're having a bad day, put on that good music, stop watching the news, stop listening to the news. The news is all BS. It's all propaganda. Like, just go out there and live your life and make the world a better place and enjoy the things that you have. Stop playing the someday game.
Yeah, you should hear Anna's soundtrack.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. We'll have to trade music offline, and yeah, I love all kinds of music.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I'll play it at the end.
Oh, we'll play it. Dan's got it all queued up.
Sorry, I'm biased.
No, it's fine. I have a real strong passion for art and music. I tell people my dad was a spoken word artist, and he reminded me a lot of Robin Williams. A lot.
Robin.
Like the funny, yeah, so do I. And you know, my dad burnt out early for similar reasons. But to me, art and music, there's an immediacy to it. It's like mental health right now. And I have a project I'd love to share with you offline as well about that, because as you so aptly said, man, lyrics can be a lightning rod and an anchor when you need them. The artist behind me was a lightning rod when I was losing my dad. This Human Angel project that I started cooking up is all about that. So I'd
Nice.
love to share that with you. Yeah, because you're really spinning my wheels around why that's so important right now. It can shift everything in a heartbeat. If they
Hmm.
can't hire you for a year, they need to know that even you reach out and put on your groove playlist. It's essential.
Hmm.
The choice immediately. Is there another
Yeah.
question you had, Dan? Because I could pick Christopher's brain all day. It's
No,
like,
you can definitely do that. I would also like to know you've also, and we've discussed this before too, but you're also a workshop facilitator and retreat leader. So I'd love to, can you explain those roles and how they involved and complement your coaching practice?
Yeah, no, great question. Thank you for that. That's something that I haven't been doing, obviously, with COVID and everything else. But I've done men's retreats. I've done
I
small
figured you'd get
relationship.
back into it after, since it's COVID's over. So I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. I've actually got I've got a retreat coming up next year in 2024. It's a men's retreat that I'll be doing. I think we're going to do it in North Carolina. Yeah, it's
Huh?
all the continuation of the same thing. It's all about the mindset. I was a relationship coach for a lot of years, so I did relationship retreats and things of that nature. The workshops, the same thing. It's just about whatever the goal is at the outset. So one of my workshops is called the No Excuses Workshop. So basically, we work on your excuses and change your perspective about why you have those excuses in place and start doing things that actually add value and benefit to the things that you're doing, regardless of those excuses. So, yeah, it's just about training, just about, getting raw and real. I'm very particular about who I accept into my programs to make sure that they're the right fit for the group. So that there's not one person that's just like, oh, this stuff is stupid. Yeah, I know. I tried this before and it never worked. Like I'm very intentional about the people that I associate with and bring in my circle.
Of course.
So yeah, it's all about the going through the process. And my whole thing is that, I love Tony Robbins and people like that, but unfortunately they create programs for you to keep investing with them. So you
Yeah.
have to do Date with Destiny. You got to do UPW. You got to, no, for me, it's like, if you go through a particular situation, I don't want you to ever have to deal with that particular situation ever again. So like, it's, for me, a lot of it's mindset. And once you have the components of the mindset, like I've been talking about here today, and you implement them every single day, like I have sticky notes. So one of my little things is I put my sticky note right there on my thing. So if it's important, I want to learn it and I want to embrace it, I put it up there for me to focus on. And, so, but yeah, I'm looking forward to get back into the retreats and the workshops as well.
Yeah. I also looked up to Dr. Wade Dyer. You talk about excuses. So I'm like, if connects.
Yeah.
That's
Dr. Wayne
great.
Dyer, when he says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That was so powerful for me.
Wasn't that? It was just incredible.
Or if you continue to do what you've always done, you continue to get what you've always got.
Yep. Well, he wrote that book, Excuses Be Gone.
Yep.
So that's where that I connected to that. So that's great.
Yeah. He was one of my first, I guess, spiritual mentors, if you will.
Yes.
I never met him, but I watched a PBS special when I was house watching for some lady, dog watching for a friend of mine. She didn't have any other cable television, so I just put that on and I started listening to it. And it was like this whole telethon he did for like a whole weekend or something like that. And I just fell in love with the guy. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, and started reading his books and then slowly started getting into other aspects of spirituality and all that self-help fluffy stuff that I talk about. Yeah, he's an incredible soul. I have a friend of mine that met him on the beach in Hawaii.
That's great. Yeah, actually, my mother had the good fortune on this program to interview him a few times. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty transformational. Anyway,
That's fantastic.
Anna, yeah, it was pretty interesting. But Anna, do you have any? I know you have a lot of questions, and I interrupted.
Sorry, we're also nursing colds, so I'm sorry.
Oh,
You can
geez.
edit that part out. I'm stifling a
The
cough.
power of editing.
No, I'm like, don't breathe. No, I had a moment like Wayne Dyer talks about the shift. It was like the last movie he made. And I had this shift. I was in LA and I had gone to this like botanical garden and I looked up at this tree and something, Christopher, wacky happened. Like the air changed. I look up at this tree. It's just right in front of me. And a hummingbird came down and looked me in the eye. And I said out loud, I am done with BS work. I am just going to work with the angels of light. And I'm looking around like, oh my gosh, I don't even believe that came out of my mouth. And then yada, yada, yada. I had a song in a benefit concert for victims of human trafficking within 30 days of just saying it out loud. And I looked back at Wayne Dyer's description of that kind of event. It always sneaks up on you. Something about things shifts in your mind, and then boom, you've got your purpose. And that was a shift for me. It kind of catapulted me into the next part of life as a musician and going, yeah, I know. So the
Nice.
universe is always talking to us. And I think I love your explanation that you don't want to be somebody's guru for life. You want to teach them how you see and set them free to figure it out for themselves. It's a wonderful coaching strategy. So
Yeah, very, very co-creative. I find that the coaching industry has taken a really hard hit in the last couple of years through COVID because everybody was going on things like Clubhouse and, getting coaching. They go to an online program and spend $70 and become a life coach. And it's like, I've got all of my demonstrated years of experience through all the things that I've been through, all the things I've helped people through, coaching for over 20 years. The industry is interesting. I used to be a suit and tie speaker, by the way. I didn't always look like this. I did look like a suit and tie speaker and said all the things that everybody else was saying and didn't swear. And I just realized I came off of a stage at a multi-speaker event where some very influential names, I don't ever say their names, but some very influential people in the motivational book space. And I found out they weren't congruent. They weren't real. They were all about the ego and the money and manipulation and NLP and, making money and all this stuff. So I'm like, I thought we all got into this space to help people. Right. And so I found there was a lot of, incongruent people in the space. And so that's when I really decided, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to keep the suit and tie on anymore. I'm just going to be Chris. I'm a rocker. I'm a biker. I've worn my hat on backwards all my life. I hate sweating. So I put the bandana on because I don't like sweating. And it just kind of like, it became a thing. It was like, okay, I'm just going to be me. And that's, it's been an amazing journey.
I think it's just, heart-centered is huge, man. And then it's just so cool because the people that don't ever pick up a Wayne Dyer book are going to just feel it right through you, and you being you matters the most. So
100%.
Being authentic, man, I got to give it to you. That's huge. So great.
It's not easy. It's not easy. People sit there, Chris, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. They always tell people, they tell themselves, we tell ourselves it's going to be hard. Well, of course it's going to be hard if you make it hard, but realistically, it could also be easy. It just depends on that perspective. But ultimately, through whatever hard work you do, it's going to be worth it. Yeah. Right? You think about your life. When did you learn and grow the most? When things were easy or when things were challenging? When things were challenging, right? So again, that perspective shift, I'm looking forward to the next challenge because it's going to cause me to have to get uncomfortable and to grow in an area that perhaps I don't feel like growing in. Wow. How about that perspective? Now I got a new challenge. People sit there and talk about problems. I talk about them being opportunities. Again, if you say, I got all these problems, like, no, you have opportunities. That shift, like, and I'm not being a rose-colored glass kind of person. It's like, no, it's an opportunity. If you address it as an opportunity, if it was an opportunity for somebody else and they came to you and asked your opinion on it, you would have an opinion about it. So take your opinion and go do something, take that imperfect action and solve your own problem and get out of your own way and grow and then go help somebody else do it.
Absolutely. I just have one question and hearkening back to excuses, but how can our listeners begin to identify and challenge their own excuses in order to achieve their full potential? Because this whole show is about discover your potential. So I just thought I'd tie that in.
Sure. Yeah. That's a great question. That'd be a long-winded answer, but ideally, we all know what our excuses are. Like for me, my excuse is attention. So like I have ADD on crack, ADHD. So for my excuse is like, oh, I can't pay attention. So why can't I pay attention? What do I need to do in order to pay attention? What things do I need to start taking responsibility for instead of just using it as an excuse? That's the thing. And so what I want you guys to do is write down on your piece of paper, like, okay, my biggest excuse is I say, I don't know. Okay. So what is it that you need to do to know? You need to start Googling things. You just need to start asking for advice. You need to start asking for help. But so many of us are sitting there silently in quiet desperation, hoping, wishing, praying that we can figure it out on our own, but you can't. That's the thing that blows my mind is so many people say they want success and they want happiness and they want fulfillment. I ask them, okay, who's your coach? Oh, I don't have a coach. Okay. So how serious are you about doing it? Do you want to do it in 20 years or do you want to do it in 2 years? Right? Think about that. And so whatever that excuse might be, ask yourself where that excuse came from. Where did that origin of that excuse comes from? And you'll find most likely it was something with your parents. Something with your mom or your dad. It's been something it's a conditioned response to sit there and say, oh, I don't have enough time. Okay. Then what do you need to do to make more time? Okay. I need to have the kids make their own lunches. I need to have my husband do his own laundry and I need to have my daughter, clean up around the house. Whoa, they'll never do that. They'll never do that. I'm like, well, if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, would they not get their clothes clean and clean up the house? And yeah. Okay, well, then we just need to find the right leverage in order for you to get it what it is that you need. And so ultimately it's about the bottom crux of it all is that burning desire to figure it out, to want to figure it out. And that's the problem is so many people I see, they hit bottom or they hit the bottom and then they go, oh, wow, now I'll change. I just had a friend of mine, dear friend, go through it. He was sober for 14 years and relapsed on the bottle. And he said it was the greatest thing that ever could have happened to him. He went into treatment. He went back into a prestigious treatment center in Melbourne, Australia. And he says, Chris, that's the best thing that ever could have happened. So sometimes we need to hit bottom and that's when we figure it out. But my whole thing is trying to get people to proactively not hit that bottom and then be resilient. And so you have to have that burning desire to sit there and say, I'm done with my excuses. I'm done with the way my body looks. Oh, I don't have an excuse. I have an excuse. I don't have time to go to the gym. Okay, well, go walk around your neighborhood. Go get a stationary bike. Go do planks. Go do something. There's something you can always do. But most people don't want to take that responsibility. They want the quick fix. They want they want to deal with the symptom and not actually the root cause of what their problems are.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any other questions, Anna, before we have to close out soon? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled. Your energy, the vibration coming off of you, the guitars in the background. It's like, wow, I hope I know you for a long time, man.
You will.
It's very clear you've succeeded in life, but I don't know who wouldn't be wildly inspired by you. So.
Well, thank you. This has been an amazing conversation, guys. I appreciate it. And I look forward to finding out when it goes live and sharing it out with my peeps. You guys ask great questions. So thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you. Really is.
Yay.
We finally had you on. We've been talking about it for a while. So,
are you producing music now, or are you just kind of messing around? What are you doing with music? That's my question.
Right now, I've just been playing guitar. I've just started playing again. I go through spurts where I play and I practice, and then I get to a point where I have a boxer's fracture on my left hand. So I actually busted I tried to break a brick wall once when I was 14 years old. Busted all the metacarpals in my hand. So when I play guitar, I'm left-handed. When I'm right-handed with the guitar, these three fingers don't cooperate very well. So I get frustrated and then I tend to give it up. But again, that congruency factor with my son, it's like he sees all the guitars around the house and he's like, Dad, how come you never practice? So I thought, I got to practice in order for him to see that you got to practice to get better at things. So it's all about that congruency factor. But yeah, just been playing chords. My goal is to, I've got a friend of mine, we're an accountability partner. So we're actually forcing ourselves to learn 3 new chords. And then we're actually going to learn 3 songs that we can sing together. So, you got to have fun with it. You got to have accountability partners. I might start writing music again, but for me, it's just a great way to disconnect and just to enjoy life, listen to music, play music, go see music live. I actually have a tattoo. This song right here is actually the lyrics to Drift Away by Dobie Gray, which is, give me the beat, boys, to free my soul. I want to get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. So it's actually a band that goes around my arm. And that's actually the musical notes for that chorus. So give me the beat, boys, to free my soul. Want to get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. But if anybody wants to keep in touch with me, they can just go check out noexcusescoach.com, or they can go to itsjustyourandmekid.com, check out the book. Would love to. And anybody watching this, if you have anything that you need, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to take care of you.
Yeah. Wow. And actually, as a part of Discover Your Potential, if somebody emails, I'm going to use my mother's email address, cindy@cindygilman.com. I'm going to intentionally give away one of your books when it's released, because you especially me, you empower myself and you empower so many people and help so many people. And that's what I love, because you're so authentic.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys so much. It's been such a blessing to be here and dancing in conversation with you guys. I hope all the people that are watching this take it to heart and take action on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love the title, You and Me, Kid. I'm going to keep that one, because I think it goes on and on and on. Even if it's just you and your inner child, I think you've hit on something so profound, friend. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. I love what I do.
Great. Well, thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
I feel like that was a really enlightening talk about mindset. I mean, overall, Chris is a guy that I would hire, and his book is incredible. And so I'm just grateful for this episode of Discover Your Potential.
I am as well. No, it was really enlightening what he was talking about. It was just a pleasure to have him on. We've been talking about having him on for months now. I'm really excited that we finally got it together and had Chris on. I'd love to have him on again. And he mentioned that he wants to have us on his show, which is extraordinary.
And lucky you,
So
he's doing a men's retreat in North Carolina next year, and that's not
too far.
It's not too far, and it's a great. North Carolina is beautiful, and I bet you would make it into the inner circle. I bet you'd make the cut of guys invited.
We'll see what
Well,
happens, because I'm going to hire him as my coach.
there you go. I mean, who wouldn't? I think it's fantastic.
No, I think he's amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Quite extraordinary. Well, anyway, thank you, Anna, for being here again for this wonderful episode of third episode at Discover Your Potential. I'm so excited for you and blessed to have you be a co-host of mine.
Thanks. I'm excited to see where the journey goes for us, because I feel like all this great advice is leading somewhere good. It's
Absolutely.
definitely motivational. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, transformational, not only for us, but for our viewers.
Yeah.
And that's really what it counts. So, as my mother said, do something nice for yourself, but do something nice for others.
This is Cindy Gilman, and you're listening to Discover Your Potential. So until next time, do something nice for yourself, but do something nice for someone else.
Something about gravity